Cormani McClain was a huge get for Deion Sanders in Colorado, but is he going to stay in Boulder?
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Board. Today's episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. Today, we are talking about the latest rumor that is swirling around Colorado football. And let me put it this way. It is a rumor for now. It is a rumor until it's proven otherwise. And I was told by someone who's out there in South Florida that there is some noise about Cormani McClain entering the portal. There's a lot of rumors about him not being in Boulder because he's no longer in the well-off media videos. There's a rumor flying around that he was taking a trip to Tallahassee to see Florida State. And then there's also some thoughts that he may be eyeing a return to Miami, where he was at one point committed. From what I've heard and what I've been told, it's just a rumor right now. There's just noise. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen. We also don't, just because he's not in the well-off media videos does not mean that he's not in Boulder. So I wanted to address that first. If Cormani McClain were to transfer, it would be a tough loss for Colorado because they'd obviously be losing a five-star talent that was expected to kind of be the Robin to Travis Hunter's Batman, and then eventually he'd become the Batman to, say, DJ McKinney or whatever. Obviously, his first year in Boulder didn't go as expected. He had issues acclimating to the college experience. He had issues kind of going to class. He had issues attending practices, attending meetings. He was publicly called out by Coach Prime. He did get some opportunities to play a little bit. He had some bright moments, and then there was games like the Washington State game where it was not so bright. So I think there's a lot of potential for Cormani McClain, but I think the biggest thing holding Cormani McClain back was or is Cormani McClain himself. Again, these are rumors, so until they are proven to be true, I'm just going to treat them as rumors. But I will say I have multiple people confirmed to me that cover the transfer portal, that cover South Florida football, that there is some noise about him transferring. Now, him transferring could be for a bunch of different reasons. Either way, we're not going to find out about him officially entering the portal until the spring portal period comes, because obviously he's an undergraduate student. The only players that can enter the transfer portal at all times are grad students. So he can announce his intentions to enter the portal, I guess, but he cannot be contacted or actually be in the portal until that until that spring window opens for everyone. It'd be a tough loss, like I said, but if you're Colorado, and I talked about this before, I said I've done an episode about it. I think if Cormani McClain is able to get his mind right, I did a whole episode about this, he has the ability to be a breakout star for Colorado. At the same time, and I talked about this yesterday on yesterday's episode, not about Cormani specifically, but this defensive back room is absolutely loaded with talent, loaded with guys who have quality college experience. So if there was someone to leave or someone who felt like they were no longer in the right place, Coach Prime and his staff did a fantastic job of going out and getting top corner transfers and top corner talent. They brought in DJ McKinney from Oklahoma State. He started for a team that went to the Big 12 title game. Coach Prime has been on video telling DJ that, hey, you are a first-round talent. You have to see it. And so Coach Prime is obviously very bought into DJ McKinney. They have Preston Hodge from Liberty. Not sure what position Preston's going to line up as, because he's obviously been listed as a nickel, corner, safety. He can play everywhere apparently in the secondary, but either way, he has versatility. He's a good corner. You have a guy like Omarion Cooper, who, while he did have his struggles last year, he started, I think, 8 games for the Buffs, and that's big. That's starting experience. He had a bigger role at Florida State at one point, and then obviously lost his role, but either way, he's a guy with starting experience. Travis Jay, another guy who Colorado didn't get a lot out of last year, but he did play some snaps. So if Cormani McClain were to leave, which again, right now is just hearsay. We don't know if it's going to happen, but I wanted to talk about it just to address it and kind of get out in front of it because I know a lot of people are like, it's not happening or it's definitely happening. We're just going to pencil it in as we'll see what happens when it happens, if it happens. If Cormani McClain is a Buff by week 1, it wouldn't shock me. If he's transferring when the spring portal window opens, I'd say I'd be a little shocked that he'd want to give up an opportunity to play under Coach Prime. But at the end of the day, they have to do what's best for him, and he has to do what's best for his career and what he feels. So obviously, whatever we may think is the best for his career, like playing for a coach that was an NFL Hall of Famer at the same position and a defensive coordinator that's a secondary specialist. If that's not what Cormani sees the best decision for him, that's obviously totally up to him. But Colorado has been planning around bolstering their secondary. They've been doing this at a ton of positions. I talked about it yesterday. Wide receiver, corner, offensive line. Those 3 positions are absolutely loaded with talent. They are loaded with guys who they can afford to lose a guy or guy or two. Now, obviously, losing Cormani McClain would be one of the bigger guys to lose. But again, Coach Prime, he made it obvious at the end of the Amazon Prime documentary. Great watch if you haven't watched it. Go check it out. I think he was talking to Coach Hart, I believe it was, and they're driving very scenic around Boulder, around the bridge that, like, if you've never been to Boulder, there's like a little bridge that takes you up the hill. And he's talking about how they're going to the portal what was this past offseason, or this offseason, if you will. And they want to get guys from the portal that have starting experience. And they did just that at the corner position. And clearly, if Cormani McClain leaves, they're going to have a contingency plan in place. It's not going to be like Cormani or nothing. It just is. I wanted to address this because this is obviously one of their biggest stories. Because obviously, I mean, you have to look at a guy like Cormani McClain, and you have to kind of, sorry, I got the freaking sniffles today. You have to look at him as a recruit that is one of the highest ranked recruits in program history. And for him not to work out, it would be an utter disappointment. And so it's just one of those things where it's like you hope it works out for everyone involved. Cormani is currently the 4th ranked highest recruit in program history, behind Daryl Scott and Marcus Houston, both of which were running backs in the classes of 2008, 2000. Then it's Jordan Seaton, and then it's Cormani. So he's the 2nd highest ranked recruit that Coach Prime has brought into Colorado. And obviously you want to see these things work out. But right now, the rumors are getting a little loud that Cormani is looking elsewhere, so it's worth keeping an eye out for. But again, he can't enter the portal until the spring window opens, so we're not really going to know where he's going or what his plan is until we get to that point. And so we kind of got to work our way through spring ball. Now, obviously, things would be different if he's dismissed from the team and there's like a report, like say a Tavares Dawson or a Bishop Thomas type incident where it's like, okay, he's no longer on the team. But that has not happened. Cormani McClain is not in the portal yet. But I will say it is something to keep tabs on based on what I've heard. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Coach Prime's unique recruiting practice and why he's doing things much differently, and it could work out or it could be something that comes back to bite him. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Nissan. This week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends over at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest, just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs. These guys were able to take it to the next level. The Houston Cougars can only be described as the Armada. This is a top-seeded team, is as hardcore as it gets out there, so it's no wonder they're expected to land a top seed in the tournament after their first season in the Big 12. Or maybe it's the Tennessee's Vols can be described as a pathfinder. They're thrilling to watch, and they've created a lane for themselves by claiming the top spot in the SEC. Player of the Year Dalton Connect has carried the Vols this season and made them a team to watch in March. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Again, go to shopnissanusa.com. That is shopnissanusa.com. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, so make sure to like, subscribe, follow, give me those 5 stars, and comment below some people you want on the show, things you want me to discuss, everything in between. I'm open for all of your demands, suggestions, whatever you may call it. But first, we're talking about Coach Prime's recruiting tactic. It is interesting, and it kind of confirms something that I talked about probably a few months ago now, probably a month or so ago. When it comes to recruiting at the high school level, I am of the mindset that Coach Prime needs to recruit more high school players, bring in bigger high school classes, simply because of the blue chip ratio. If Colorado wants to win a title, you need to have a roster that's full of 4 and 5 stars. It's proven every year since 2011. The team that's won the national title has had a roster made up of 50% 4 or 5 star recruits. It comes down to, and you're probably like, oh, wow, that's not shocking. The teams that recruit the best win the games. Yes. So if you're not recruiting at the highest level, at like a more dramatic level, you will have a more difficult time winning. Now, obviously, this season will be very interesting for Colorado because they bolstered their roster immensely through the portal and also brought in a couple highly talented high school recruits. But in a report by the USA Today, it was confirmed, because this was something that a lot of people were speculating about, that Coach Prime has not made a single off-campus recruiting visit during his time as a Colorado head coach, which means that he has not taken advantage of the $200,000 annual budget he was given for private air travel for recruiting. And he also has not come close to like reaching the recruiting at-home visits that people like Jim Harbaugh and Nick Saban brought in. But again, his strategy is different and he's doing it his way. And I think this season will be a great test of his strategy and whether it works out or not. If Colorado wins some games this next season, I would say I'd still like to see them recruit a little harder, just because I feel like it's really difficult to bank off the portal. But who am I to argue with proven results? As of right now, they went 4-8. They did improve a little bit from the year prior, but that team was utterly atrocious. Now heading into the 2024 season, they are viewed as kind of a middle of the pack Big 12 team, which is a pretty big step up from where they were. But they're talking playoff, they're talking Big 12 title. So to do that, they need all these players to come together. They need all these players to hit. They need all of these players to kind of buy in. And I think that was an issue they had last year, which is why I think recruiting is so important, because I think high school recruits are more likely to buy into the culture. I think high school recruits are more likely to buy into the message rather than guys who it's like, I came from LSU. That's not how we did things over there. Or, I was a 3-year starter at, I don't know, name Fresno State or Tennessee or whatever, like Cal. That's not how we did things. And I started a lot. And so I think that's just kind of like a sense of entitlement that we see from transfers sometimes. So I thought it was interesting. Realistically, if it works for him, there's no need to change it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, as they say. But this will kind of be the year to determine if it's broke. If it's broke, obviously maybe Coach Prime needs to get on the road. I think he's the only college football coach that I'm aware of that doesn't do at-home visits. I know Nick Saban does them. Kirby Smart does them. Everyone does them. Lincoln Riley, Sonny Dykes, whoever, you name it. People are doing at-home visits. It's just kind of a thing to show the recruits that you're really into them, that you're like really bought into them as a recruit, that you have a lot of faith in them. So for him to not do that, it kind of shows I don't want to say like an unwillingness to adapt to what college football is, but he's kind of showing that, hey, I'm Deion Sanders, not me speaking. This is him speaking, hypothetically. I'm Deion Sanders. You know what you got for me. You know who I am. So come play for me. And I think that's great until it's not. If he struggles to get recruits and recruits are kind of pushed the wrong way by this, then it's not really working out. He was actually, Coach Prime was, him, Nick Saban, I think Chip Kelly maybe. They were among the coaches in an anonymous article by The Athletic, or anonymous statements in an article by The Athletic, that were kind of guys that people on the recruiting trail, recruits were kind of like, he's cocky or he's not as nice as I thought he'd be. They said Coach Prime was cocky, and they said that's obviously part of his persona. It's high confidence, but rubbed that recruit the wrong way. Now, obviously, recruits are all different. He attracted Jordan Seaton. He attracted Cormani McClain. He attracted Travis Hunter. So it works out. I don't know what his recruiting strategy was at Jackson State. But again, if it works for him and it continues to work for him, like Colorado's winning games and he saves the school $200,000 each year, congrats. If it starts to become an issue and it's like, okay, maybe we need to put in more effort on the recruiting trail, that would be interesting. That was actually one of my biggest questions for Coach Prime, would be, why doesn't he feel the need to do it? But if it's working out for him, go for it. But like I said, if it doesn't, if issues begin to arise, I feel like it is worth at least making it seem like you're going to try to recruit a little bit more. But again, he hasn't had any issues thus far. I think he's got his roster built the way he wants. We're just going to have to determine if that's the right way to build a roster over the next year or so. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the latest changes to the college football playoff. Fire TV is your destination for sports. From live games to highlights to in-depth analysis, Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs as well as the Fire Stick TV that you could plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us over here at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. This episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs, this time unmuted. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, all that jazz. Make sure we're supporting, make sure we're hyping us up. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers. We're like 15-ish away. I appreciate you guys' support. Let's get there. We're talking about the latest on the college football playoff because it does, in a way, affect Colorado. It does, in effect, a way. It impacts all of college football. And so I wanted to be the one to tell you guys about what changes have been made and what I think will happen eventually. Excuse me. So the playoff is expected to we'll just start here. They agreed on their revenue share. So the Big Ten and the SEC will get the lump sum of it, which no shocker there. They will be getting a certain percentage of all of when it comes to the revenue. The Big Ten and the SEC are going to earn 58%, and this would be well over the Big 12 and the ACC. It came out to, excuse me. So the Big 12 and the ACC, had to pull it up. My computer was taking a unit what on me. Are going to split 58% of the base revenue, while that's the Big 10 and the SEC. The Big 12 and the ACC are going to get 32%, leaving 10% for Notre Dame and the rest of the conferences, like the Group of Five schools and stuff like that. It is also worth noting that the playoff is probably going to expand from 12 to 14 teams, but rather than that debacle, that disaster, that putrid suggestion where it was like, okay, we, the SEC and the Big Ten, get 3 automatic bids each. Our top teams, our number one teams of each conference, will be the top 2 seeds and get automatic buys. That's not happening. They're going with the 5+9 method. So it's going to be the 5 top conference champions and then 9 at-large bids. That plays in favor for Colorado because that'll be in 2026. Would be the earliest it starts. Plays in favor for Colorado because obviously you just have to be in the top 14 really to win game or to make it to the playoff, or just win your conference. That's also easier said than done. But I like where we're headed. I like that they were able to agree on a number. I like that they're able to kind of agree on this college football playoff format. But as someone who's been covering college football for the past few years professionally out of college, I would say that this reminds me of living in a house with roommates and everyone is mad about that one roommate that leaves his dishes in the dishwasher, doesn't clean up after himself, or kind of is just taking over the fridge and just stuff like that. And then everyone's like, you know what? We're going to have a discussion with Bob and we're going to be like, Bob, you know what, dude? Like, come on, be for real. Like, you got to clean up after yourself. This is a group environment. This is a group setting, and you're not living up to your end of the bargain. And so Bob goes, you know what? I'll do my dishes right after I use them. I'm going to make sure that I'm not taking other people's food. I'm going to make sure that my area is clean. I'm going to make sure that I don't mess with your guys' area. But usually, when you have to talk to someone about being a bad roommate, in most cases, they're going to revert back to being that bad roommate. They're going to revert back to being that dude that made you have that conversation anyway. And I imagine that's going to happen with college football. I think the Big Ten and the SEC are greedy and they're going to push their luck. They're going to push their weight as much as they can. They're going to figure out ways to make the playoff benefit them more. They're going to figure out ways to bring in more money. And even though they've already got a larger sum of the deal than the ACC and the Big 12, they are going to do things that helps them rather than helping the sport of college football, because at the end of the day, college football is run by people who care about money, not people who care about college football. And so I think while for now it's great that the changes are made, I do think that there's going to be more changes in the future. And it wouldn't shock me if they are more selfishly motivated moves rather than moves where it's like, oh, this is great for the game. This is great for everyone. Don't think it's going to be like that, but we'll just have to wait and see. I think 14 is a fine number. Realistically, I always felt the playoff was flawed in the sense that we are letting people choose who they think the best teams are. And we've kind of always bordered on that weird line of like which teams are the best or which are the most deserving. Like Florida State this past year, at the moment the playoff was voted on, they were not one of the best four teams. They weren't, but they were deserving. And it's kind of one of those things where it was just really weird because I think if you're going off most deserving, they absolutely should have been in there. I think had their backup quarterback been able to play, they could have been in there as well. But the third string quarterback, unfortunately, was not that good at the time. He's a freshman, got thrown into a tough situation. But there was always an issue with letting people vote on who are the best teams. I always felt like that was always setting us up for failure. It was always setting us up for failure when there was 5 power conferences at that time, and there was only 4 spots, so one conference was always going to be left out. There was just so many issues with the college football playoff. I like that they expanded it because I think it gives more teams a chance, and I think it gives teams that were wronged a chance to prove that they deserve to be in there. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of teams that were wronged in the past, like TCU when they had Trayvon Boykin. I would say you could argue UCF could have been in there. You can argue a team like Ohio State in years past or Georgia this past year could have been in there. This kind of takes all this out. I don't really think there's 14 teams in college football that are national championship contenders, but I do like that it opens it up and kind of gives more people a chance. And also maybe will help out with the transfer portal epidemic because maybe guys won't be transferring as much because they'll be in the playoff, right? So we'll see how long this lasts, but I do think it's going to be like the roommate situation. You guys comment below all of your thoughts on the Cormani issue. Does he leave? Does he stay? Comment below. Does Deion Sanders need to change his methods? And comment below, of course, how long, over under 3.5 years before we see another change to the college football playoff. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. I'm free and available. We're free and available over here at Locked On Buffs, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, all that jazz. And I appreciate all the support that you guys give me. I will see you guys tomorrow.